So with the depolarization of a neuron, so if I go to bio diagrams. Okay, so for the bio diagrams, this might not be the right one. Okay, with the depolarization of a neuron, so one thing that we're looking at with the depolarization is that this is anytime you see something like with the all or none or firing, anything with generating an action potential, the depolarization, that all means essentially the same thing. Okay, so what happens here is when it's in the resting potential, the sodium is on the outside, okay, and then the potassium is going to be on the inside. So the sodium and potassium ions are going to open, okay, and then the the sodium will go on the inside, and then the potassium will primarily be on the outside. So those are the two ions that are associated. So I can draw it better than what this picture is. If you can kind of picture it like, okay, so we're zooming in on the axon. Okay, when it's in the resting potential, think sodium positive on the outside, potassium negative on the inside. And then when it's in the action potential, it's sodium and positive on the inside and potassium and negative on the outside. That's going to tend to be that should help. Okay, so I don't think it'll be anything more basic or like more than that. It might be wordy, okay, but essentially if it's something that's really wordy, just look at the breakdown and underline what you're seeing. Okay, so then the other one was Maslow, correct?
Yeah, you said that
Yes, I don't have it on here. Okay, so PS less. That's what you want to think. PS less. Bye. Have a good day. Don't forget the plates. Okay. Okay, so with this picture here, the Maslow, yes, Maslow is definitely a name to know because you could see it in motivation, you could see it in disorders, you could see it in treatment, you could see it in perspectives. Okay, so Maslow's really the person who kind of founded the humanistic theory. So here what he said is you need to have these needs met before you can have your loving needs met before you can become self-actualized. So PS less is going to be the best way to remember that. And then this fits in with Carl Rogers because Carl Rogers is going to say, well, if you don't have your love and belonging and esteem, it's because nobody created unconditional positive regard for you. So you're going to want to do that. Okay. So now I can decide what we want to do. Reagan, do you have a question? Yeah.
Okay. Fundamental attribution error. I don't understand that at
all. Okay. So I would say fundamental attribution, self-serving bias, and I know actor-observer effect was on there too. Mental attribution error. Okay. So basically what we're looking at here is how do we judge the behavior of others? What attribution is looking at how do I explain your behavior or just behavior in general. Okay, so if it's fundamental attribution error, I explain somebody else's behavior. And the error is I attribute it to their character. So if somebody cuts me off in line, I'm going to think they're an idiot. Like, don't they get that there's a line here? Okay. I have a good one. I was at Mall of America and was in line. And we were waiting for like 60 minutes for this ride. And these 3 teenagers just walked through up to the front to look for their friend. And no one said anything to them. And I was like, am I going to be teacher Liz right now or am I going to be mom Liz right now? I'll just go with mom Liz. But I was thinking, I'm like, gosh, what an egocentric group of girls, And then I tried thinking to myself, well, they're at a lot, I tried doing that. But that's the fundamental attribution error. I'm like, what an inconsiderate group of girls, okay, to just be butting in line in front of all these little kids. And then the self-serving bias is when I explain, am I going to attribute it to my character or am I going to attribute it to my situation? If I do well, it's going to be it's my character. If I do bad, it's going to be the situation. Like I was downstairs, the water fountain the bubbler downstairs has the filters red. And somebody said, if I get a 1 on the AP test, I'm blaming this water fountain. That would be a self-serving bias. We did see something, and I didn't do this in all the classes. Actor-observer effect is one that I did not teach you. But what that is it's really combining both. So if I'm in a situation with another person, I'll blame their trait, but then the situation for me. So I'm acting and observing in it. So an example I like to use is I put money in the meter, like picture being downtown Neenah, I put money in the meter, but my lunch ran long. I'm like, oh, it's only 5 minutes. I won't get a ticket. I run out there and a cop's giving me a ticket. I might think, gosh, what a jerk. I was just running a few minutes late. Okay, so that would be actor observer. Okay. What would you like to do? I have mnemonics planned. I can do, but I feel like I did mnemonics last week before the AP Psych review. So is there a specific topic you'd like me to do that you're nervous about? Huh? People? I can definitely do people. Okay, so let's start with the main people we want to know. I have a people thing here. Good morning. So I'm going to tell you some of the top people I think you should know. And let's start with Freud. Okay, actually, let's start with Wilhelm Wundt. Okay, Wilhelm, so it's spelled Wilhelm. I have a whole people one in here. Hold on. Okay. So if we were to go to, I know what I'll do. I'll just go to the actual AP exam course description, and then it has people listed on there. And some of these people I may not know, so we'll have to look them up. Okay, so when we're looking here, can you read that? Okay, let's go over the main ones, and then I can come back and we can kind of hit up some of the more ambiguous ones. So when we look at the major historical figures in psychology, okay, let's take a look at Charles Darwin. What did Charles Darwin do? Yeah, theory of evolution. So looking at natural selection and our traits, and then applying that to psychology. So we had talked about how the 4 tastes that we have are going to contribute to our survival, because we would know if something was bitter or sour, we'd spit it out and we wouldn't eat it. Okay, another person on here is Freud. Okay, so anytime you see Freud, think psychoanalysis and the unconscious. Okay, so when we look at psychoanalysis versus psychodynamic theory, psychoanalysis is Freud. Psychodynamic theory is what came after Freud. Okay, they're called the Neo-Freudians. Okay, so the Neo-Freudians are going to be the people that took all the weird stuff, like the sex stuff, out. Okay, and looked at, like, Erik Erikson is a psychodynamic theorist. So he looked at the social interactions with trust versus mistrust instead of the sexual interactions. Another person here is going to be, I usually pair these two together. So Wilhelm Wundt, okay, or Wilhelm Wundt, okay, but it's pronounced, he is considered the father of psychology. Okay, he's considered the father of psychology. And why? Okay, it's because he set up what's considered to be the first psychological laboratory. And he used something called introspection. Okay, so introspection, what that is, introspection is, so I'll give you an example here. Okay, I want you to do this, okay? When you hear the pen drop, raise your hand, okay? When you hear the pen drop, raise your hand. Okay, so Wundt would record that. Okay, now, when you become aware that you heard the pen drop, raise your hand. So when you're aware that you heard the pen, not just when you first hear it, but when you're actually aware that you heard it. Does that make sense? It doesn't matter. Okay, ready, set. Okay, so is there a difference? Okay, so that's how he basically studied sensations and perceptions. Okay, so when could you first smell a rose? When could you first hear a sound? Things like that. And his theory is called structuralism. Structuralism. Okay, and what he did is he created, he was trying to study, like, basically, if you can think of, like, the nose smells. Okay, the eyes see. He's trying to identify the structures. The person who comes after him is William James. Okay, so William James. Now, William James is the founder of functionalism. Functionalism. Okay, so he tried to expand upon it that, okay, so the eyes see. How do they see? What is the purpose of them seeing? What advantage does it give to us as humans, okay, for our eyes to see? So they're really just trying to get that first exploration there. Now, I don't have it up here. He's not listed here, but after that, so it's very separate, okay, so we're looking at everything separately. Max Wertheimer, okay, which we'll probably see later, but I'll just put it now. Max Wertheimer, okay, he created the Gestalt theory. Okay, Max Wertheimer created the Gestalt theory. Okay, so Gestalt isn't the name. Okay, so when we look at the grouping principles of similarity, proximity, and things like that, okay, he's the one who created that. So instead of looking at everything separately, we need to look at everything as a meaningful whole. Okay, so that's really the first three big people. Now, if we go down to, okay, there's nothing in methods. Okay. Ooh, I'd have to look up Sperry. Why can't I picture? Maybe he did Gonzaga too. Okay, so what do you think Paul Broca and Carl Wernicke did? Yes, okay, so that is, I'm just seeing if Roger Sperry is with Gonzaga. Yes, he is. Yeah, okay. So I knew it was Gonzaga. Okay, so you can put Gonzaga and Sperry together. Okay, Gonzaga and Sperry are going to be the people who did the split brain procedure. Okay, so Gonzaga and Sperry. Do you remember watching the video of the man who had the split brain and we watched him? Okay, Gonzaga was the doctor in there that was doing the testing. Okay, so he was with Alan Alda, the guy from MASH. Okay, so that is a more ambiguous one, but nonetheless, it might be one that you could see. So Gonzaga and Sperry both did that. Then, who we got down here? Ooh, okay. I'd have to look up these. Okay, so we'll skip sensation and perception for now. We did that. Okay, so let's look at the big ones here. Okay, so let's go. This is the learning unit. Okay, this is a lot of names, and I'm going to review this a little bit today as well. But let's group some people off. Okay, so let's pair Pavlov and Watson together. Okay, so Pavlov and Watson are classical conditioning. So with Pavlov and Watson in classical conditioning, what they're going to do, Pavlov did Pavlov's dogs, and then Watson came after. Okay, and he did the little Albert, but Watson's the person who coined behaviorism. Watson's a have-to-know name. I mean, I think Pavlov, we just know Pavlov's dogs. Okay, but Watson is a have-to-know name with behaviorism. Now, there's a few other people that we can put here. Robert Rescorla and John Garcia. Okay, so they both studied classical conditioning as well. So Rescorla looked at how the neutral stimulus predicts the unconditioned stimulus. So the bell predicts the food. Opening your bag predicts the cat food. The bird predicts the vicious attack and near-death experience. Okay. Garcia then, okay, is biological components of classical conditioning, specifically food aversion. So what I really want you to picture, okay, with food aversion, okay, or with Garcia, picture a Mexican restaurant called Garcia's. You go and get a chimichanga, you get really sick. Are you going to blame the music in Garcia's? No. Are you going to blame the lighting in Garcia's? What are you going to blame? Yeah, the food. Okay, so that's what Garcia discovered, and he did so with mice. Okay, so mice were getting cancer treatment, and he realized they'd stop drinking their water because they were assuming the water was making them sick. Okay, so then he tried to introduce other things like a light stimulus, sound, and they only would associate what they consume. So it's very much a survival mechanism. Okay, then we have, I'd like you to put Thorndike and Skinner together. Thorndike and Skinner. And what Thorndike did, he did the law of effect. Do you remember what the law of effect is? If you reward behavior, it increases. If you punish it, it decreases. Okay, so then that lays the foundation for Skinner. Okay, because Skinner is going to be, he's going to be the one that comes up with the operant conditioning and the schedules of reinforcement. Oh, can you write down shaping and star it? Don't you feel like you see a shaping question on every single practice test we've had? What is shaping? Yes. Okay, it's like rewarding through baby steps. Okay, to get to the final product of what you want them to do. So he would have done work with pigeons, getting them to turn in a circle, for example. Okay, so the next person then is my favorite, Albert Bandura. And what Albert Bandura did is he did observational learning or socio-cognitive learning. Okay, here's what you could see it labeled as: observational, social or socio-cognitive, and I guess maybe social learning, but it's usually some emphasis with social, so your environment, and cognitive, your thinking in your environment. Okay, so with Bandura, he is going to we talk about him with personality, with reciprocal determinism. So I may observe people in my environment and interact with it. But we also talk about here the Bobo doll experiment. And I was trying to look what Tolman, I'm pretty sure Tolman did insight. Oh, Tolman did latent learning. Okay. So Edward Tolman, latent learning is you learn, you wait, you demonstrate. Okay, so the example was, remember we had looked at an example of the mice going through the maze. Some were never rewarded, some were rewarded every day, and then one wasn't rewarded until day 11. Okay, so what happens is they increase their speed dramatically from day 11 to 12 because they had developed a cognitive map, and then they're demonstrating their learning after the fact. Okay, they're not demonstrating it right then. So my daughter heard a swear word. Okay, she heard the word damn it. Okay, a week later, she comes in and says, she dropped her bear in the snow, and she says, I got snow on my bear, damn it. Okay, that's latent learning. She learned it, but didn't show me it until a week later. Okay. All right, so questions on that? Okay, here are the two big names to know for, actually three. I would definitely, you need to know Ebbinghaus. What did Ebbinghaus do? I feel like we're good there. What? Yes, the forgetting curve. Okay. So I heard a lot of yawns. And he did the forgetting curve, and the forgetting curve is the actual one where you remember 100%, 20 minutes later it's only 60%, an hour later it's like 30%. So you can combat the forgetting curve with the spacing effect. Okay, so that first time, if I only look at it once, I'm going to forget most of it. If I look at it a second day, it's going to take me less time to relearn, and I will retain more. Okay, and it's better long-term retention. If I spread it out over several days, the forgetting curve gets a lot less. What did Elizabeth Loftus do? Yes, the misinformation effect. And overall, you can look at, with Elizabeth Loftus, memory construction. Okay, so here's what the research she did. False memories. Okay, so she did a study where she said, here's 4 stories from your childhood, rank how much you remember them. Okay, and one of the stories was false, like getting lost in a shopping mall. And I don't remember the exact data, but like a quarter of the people remembered getting lost in a shopping mall and they never did. Okay, because they had a trusting source, so that would be misinformation. Predisposing somebody to learn something. So if I have you watch a video, then I say, what color was the car next to the barn? Okay, by asking that question, you assume there was a barn and a car in the video based on how I asked it. Okay, so she did a lot of research, or like it influenced like eyewitness testimony and things like that. Okay, the other person is Chomsky. Does anybody remember what Chomsky did? Yes, I'm hearing things, but not really. I'm hearing like no one wants to speak loud enough to. Yeah. Yeah, so Chomsky is the inborn universal grammar. Okay, and yes, that applies to, I think, what people said. Okay, but inborn universal grammar, our brain is wired to learn language. So there's a couple things here. We have a critical period. Okay, I can't not hear language for 6 years and then be able to pick it up in year 7. Okay, so there's that critical period for triggering that language development. And it's inborn universal grammar. So I don't repeat back exactly what I heard, like the sentence verbatim. I kind of start to figure out the rules myself. And that's where overgeneralization comes in. Okay, so if a little kid who's 4 might say, I runned, okay, I walked, okay, like they'll add an extra ED, they're misapplying the grammatical rule. And I think Wolfgang Kohler is who did Insight, and if not, I'm obviously hung up on this. Yes, okay. Wolfgang Kohler did Insight Learning, and what he did, I got to show you the picture. It's too cute. He did work with monkeys or chimpanzees. I don't know. I can't tell my primates apart. And he basically put the monkeys in a room. Look at that. Aw, okay. So what he did is he put a banana where the monkeys couldn't reach it. And then he put like those boxes around, and he just wanted to see if the monkeys could figure it out. And it was kind of that insight learning is that aha moment. They're like, if I can take this box and put it up and stand on top of it, it's like they just figured it out. It was insight, that aha moment. And showing that primates or whatever, I don't know, what is that? Chimpanzee? Okay. Are able to use insight learning. So, okay. They'd probably like rip your face off, but it's fine. Okay. I'll have to come back and look at George Miller. I don't recognize that. Okay. So let's look at the big ones here. Okay. So Maslow's theory. How are we going to remember Maslow? PSLS. What's the P? And the S? The L? Yeah, love and belonging. Yep, no, that's okay. Love and belonging. P.S. less E, esteem. And then S. There you go. Okay, so now let's look at the key contributors here. Okay, we already talked. So William James, we had talked about. He helped create the James Lange theory of emotion. Okay, how are we going to remember James Lange, the theory? A before E. Okay, and A before E is going to be the arousal comes before the emotion. So my heart's pounding, then I'm afraid. The other person here that has to do with emotions is Stanley Schachter. Okay, so Stanley Schachter is the one who created the 2-factor theory. And the 2 factors are the physiological arousal and the cognitive label. Okay, so if so there's a lot of different things that can influence this. So if I know there was an example in the last part of the 2018 practice that said if Sarah just got done skydiving and she thought the instructor was really cute and she had deep feelings of affection. Well, she was attributing her increased heart rate, okay, to stronger feelings of love towards this this person, the situation you're in. If I'm walking with a group of friends and it's daylight out and I hear leaves rustling behind me, am I going to be like, oh, I'm being followed? No. Okay? If I'm by myself at night and I hear rustling of leaves behind me, I might be afraid because my cognitive label is going to change. So my environment can change that too. But the two-factor theory is also called the Schachter two-factor. Okay, so it kind of rhymes, the Schachter two-factor theory. Okay, and then we talked about Maslow. Does anybody know what he did? R, AGAS, alarm resistance exhaustion, the general adaptation syndrome. I think it's Siley. I could be pronouncing that wrong, but what he did is the alarm resistance exhaustion. So let me just show you. Bless you. Okay, so here, that's not a very good picture. Okay, so this is the general adaptation syndrome. So if you can think of R, AGAS. Okay, so alarm, resistance, exhaustion. So when you first get stressed, okay, so let's say the AP test tomorrow. Okay, you're probably going to have, at least I always did, I would be a little nervous before the test, have butterflies, get it. My body's going to prepare myself to fight. As I start taking it, the stressor might go away. Okay, if the stressor doesn't go away, okay, like let's say I have 20 AP tests, okay, the stressor doesn't go away. I'm going to start resisting that, and I'm going to be mobilizing my resources. And then the phase 3 is going to be exhaustion, and that's where I'm more prone to illness. Okay, so Siley's is R, AGAS. Okay, alarm resistance exhaustion, general adaptation syndrome. Okay. Then I don't know, it says he did something with sexuality, but I'd have to look specifically. All right, here's a unit with a ton of names. Okay, so let's start with the main ones here first, okay? So let's start with attachment. Harry Harlow. Harry Harlow. What did Harlow do? Yeah, so think of hairy monkeys, okay? So he did monkeys, and what did we learn from that study? Yes, they need the contact, okay? Contact is what builds attachment, not food consumption. Okay, so we're looking at how does attachment develop with Harry Harlow, okay? Now, what types of attachment do we have? That's Mary Ainsworth. She did the strange situation. Okay, so the strange situation was when the mom and child were in a playroom, stranger walks in, mom leaves, okay, baby cries, and then we watch what happens when mom comes back, okay? So she's looking at secure versus insecure. Now, I made this mistake the other day, and I still didn't look it up, but there's two different types of insecure. Wow, really? That came up? Did anybody see what came up? No, it said 2 types of weed. I'm like, really? Okay. So you have 2 types of insecure attachment is, okay, you have avoidant and resistant. This is getting more picky, but I guess other people do, you could always see it. Okay, so if you're avoidant, okay, they're going to be unloved and rejected. Okay, so they're going to avoid their caretaker. So they may not notice, okay, when their caretaker has left. Okay, or they'll act the exact same with the stranger as they do with their caretaker. Okay, there's no difference. The other one might be angry and confused, which is resistant. So mom leaves, baby's really upset. Mom returns, baby's really upset. Okay, can't calm down. It's almost like the baby's angry because they were so nervous mom wasn't going to come back. Okay, so you have totally ignoring to totally like inconsolable. Okay, so those are going to be the 2 different types of insecure. Okay, then the next, let's take a look at Baumrind, Diana Baumrind. What she did was the parenting styles, authoritative and authoritarian, and permissive. I know I taught uninvolved, but I guess technically uninvolved isn't really parenting because they're not doing anything. Okay. So did I tell you the mnemonic to remember authoritative and authoritarian? Yeah, so IVE is very effective. IAN for authoritarian is awful nasty. Okay, so is very effective. Let's see. The other two that we compare together, okay, Kohlberg. And Kohlberg, I want you to picture, because he did the conventional, he did moral reasoning. I want you to picture a convent, that's where nuns live, using coal to heat it, so Kohlberg convent. Okay, and this is the pre-conventional, which has the word convent. Conventional has the word convent. Post-conventional has the word convent. Okay, so you picture a convent using coal to heat the convent. Pretty sure nuns are concerned with morality. Would you agree? Yeah, I would. Okay, so that's where you have the pre-conventional, conventional, post-conventional. So pre-conventional is you do something to gain a reward or to avoid a punishment. Okay, so I learn if I do this, I get a timeout. I learn if I speed, I get a ticket. Okay, that's why I don't speed. I don't want a ticket. Okay, so like how are you learning right and wrong? Conventional is we start to understand that rules and laws are in place to protect us, keep us safe, keep society functioning. Okay, so why do we have 15-mile speed hour in a school zone? Yeah, if you hit a kid, it's only at 15 miles per hour, which is awful what I just said. But you also probably have time to stop if you're going 15 miles per hour. But if you don't, okay, they're not going to be, like, they could be injured, certainly, but it won't be fatal, hopefully, okay? And then post-conventional is your own moral compass. Like, well, I had to speed. Someone's leg was bleeding, and I had it tied with the tourniquet, and the tourniquet was breaking. I don't know. Okay. Now, where does Carol Gilligan come in? Okay, and I didn't touch on what she had talked about. She talked about the difference with men and women, okay, and their moral development. So men tend to be more justice-oriented, like it's right or wrong. Okay, you don't do it because it's wrong. Where women are going to have more of the empathy. Yeah, but what if? What if it's this situation? Okay, and I feel like my husband and I are totally this way. Okay, like he'll be like, no, this is how it is. And I'll say, but what about this situation? He's like, you're talking about less than 1% of this group of people. I'm like, yeah, but still. Okay, so we don't steal the bread to save the family because it's illegal. You save the bread to steal the family because you need to feed your family.
This announcement is for all students who are taking the AP English Literature and Composition exam. Please
Is that you? Anybody?
128 at this time. Be sure to bring your photo ID, pens, and pencils. No phones or electronics are allowed in the exam room. No
Guys, our test is tomorrow.
Please leave your backpack in your locker or your car.
Yeah, but then we're done.
And remember,
We're going to design our shirts on Friday. We're going to have some food most days. Yes.
What is it called? With, like, is it to help you learn that you apply like meaning to it rather than
Semantic. Yeah. So anything with semantic is like understanding and meaning.
Photo ID, pens, and pencils. No phones, no electronics, and no backpacks are allowed.
How many kids are going to bring their backpacks? If I have a kid bring my backpack tomorrow. Okay, anyway. The other two to put together are Jean Piaget, okay, and Lev Vygotsky. Did I ever show you my Some People Can Fly? This is really stupid. But, yeah, I thought it was cool. Okay, but it's so dumb. So to remember Piaget's cognitive stages, some people can fly. Sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, formal operation. If you can picture like a kid in a Superman, like a baby, and then going all the way up, okay, and they're formal. This is all with your cognitive development. Now, that doesn't mean that it helps you understand what it is, okay, but at least maybe you can remember the order that it goes in. Okay, so the pre-operational is going to be the where kids are making a lot of errors. So if I were to pour this water into this cup, this one has more. They lack conservation. The formal operation is hypothetical thought. That's the stage you're in, and you go to formals like prom. Okay, teenagers go to a formal. Okay, so formal operation. And then Lev Vygotsky, what he came up with. Okay, Lev Vygotsky came up with, yeah, you can come in. Came up with the theory of zones of proximal development. Zones, am I saying that right? Zones of prox. Yeah, I am. Okay. Basically what it is this really applies a lot to teaching kids. Okay, I want to know that kids have these skills, and I can't give them things they already know. Okay, that's going to be too easy. Okay, I also can't give things that are way too difficult that they'll never be able to do. They'll get frustrated. What I want to do is I want to give it kind of in that just right zone where they need a little bit of teacher support, okay, called scaffolding, but I want them to be able to grow. Okay, so that's how it looks at with cognitive development. Okay, and I think Lorenz, I'll come back. I want to see if we have any other big ones. Okay. Okay, so I guess a lot of these are starting to get repetitive. I didn't go over, let's see, the bell's gonna ring. Well, what I can do is I can finish adding these or like put a list together of what these people do that we didn't get to and kind of attach it in with the video. Okay, so, and don't forget, I do have the People Kahoot. My big thing for you all, okay, is that you, and if you know